Hello and welcome to Setup's CMO Spotlight. Today we are thrilled to have Mika Yamamoto, the Chief Customer and Marketing Officer of Freshworks. Welcome, Mika.
Thank you, Amanda. It's so good to be here.
Great. Well, let's dive right in. Tell me about Freshworks and your role there, as well as give us a brief synopsis of your career path that led you to where you are today.
Sure. So Freshworks is a B2B SaaS company, and what we do is we deliver customer and employee delight. And now we do that with the power of AI. And so we drive and deliver customer support software, and we deliver ITSM software, as well as using those types of capabilities to be able to deliver better HR experiences, better finance experiences with the finance team. And that focuses on the employee, and then again, customer support focuses on the customer. I think about my role. My role as Chief Customer and Marketing Officer involves being responsible for marketing for the organization, so full stack marketing, brand demand, advocacy, and I'm responsible for the sales within the organization for the commercial and SMB segment, and then responsible for expansion and customer success of that segment, and then responsible for digital implementation and support for the company. And so the thought and the conception about this role is to really think about how do we actually think about customers' experiences end to end, so we can deliver customer delight. We can deliver employee delight using our own software, leveraging AI, and being able to be a shining example of what we offer our own customers. And in order to do that more effectively, putting all these functions together with one organization helps drive the puts and takes, and ability to remove the friction for our customers to be able to deliver on that delight. If I think about my career journey has been varied, and the roles have been varied. And the common theme with all of the roles that I've had has been essentially a company wants to move from point A to point B by entering a new channel. So like physical retail, for example, by entering a new market, so developing markets, or a new segment, which means moving down market into SMB or moving up market into enterprise. So every single job that I've had has involved that type of transition. So I started as a consultant because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. And so I started as a consultant because I thought I would see a broad array of experiences as a consultant, which I did. And then moved on to being a Gartner analyst, which is a technical analyst, because it was around the advent of the internet. And I had worked on internet strategies when I was a consultant. And so came in, and every job transition has had something to do with some major market shift. So this is the advent of the internet, back when the internet became a thing to businesses, and thinking about how do we actually take advantage of this powerful new innovation, and how do companies really take advantage of it to connect with their customers. And so was a Gartner analyst talking about e-business strategies and e-business trends. Those were my initial years, playing a role of advisor, a consultant, but I wanted to go into actually being accountable for the work itself, meaning being an operator. So I dove into Microsoft, where I dove in with both feet as a product manager. And that was in the advent when desktops still actually sold. There's more desktops that sold versus laptops, but laptops were absolutely seeing really amazing growth. Apple still wasn't a thing, so Microsoft still had 98% share. Emerging markets were starting to, Linux was starting to gain traction. And so it was really at that nexus point where we really wanted to continue to grow as Microsoft. And so it was an exciting time to think about how do we actually drive different market dynamics in emerging markets, in physical retail. And so then, I got to work on really a lot of really exciting programs and projects there. But realized that digital was emerging. So digital in terms of how people were engaging in social media, how people were engaging on websites. And so I took actually a step away from big corporate America and went to work for a digital agency. And I know that you deal with a ton of agencies, and, a lot of great agencies deal with, try to stay on the forefront of what's happening with how customers engage with companies. And I wanted to learn that firsthand from an agency perspective. So I actually went and took a career shift and went to a 50-person agency in Austin, and learned a ton about digital, learned a ton about, what it's like to be on the agency side, which any client should probably step in the shoes of an agency side just to see how how agencies work. So it helped me a ton just to understand what's happening in digital. And then went and actually was able to leverage that by interestingly, going into Amazon and helping them with their physical retail strategy. And then shifting over to SAP and F5 to work on their digital strategy. So my worlds have shifted between seeing how companies need to drive into digital and seeing how they need to drive into physical. And that's somewhat, similar to the conversation you and I had when we, just as we were about to start this recording, is we're still trying to figure that out. Is, our physical relationships, are we moving towards pure physical? Are we moving towards, hybrid? Are we moving to, and relying on purely virtual? And I think it's somewhere in between. And I think we've been trying to figure that out for a little bit. And then now I'm here at Freshworks to be able to work on how we're going to transform with AI and help our customers transform with AI.
I love that so much, because you really have gotten your hands dirty in several different areas, like from the analyst side to consulting, where, to your point, you get to see, different industries, different types of companies, kind of learn a little bit about a lot more. And then, but then diving in as, just casually into Microsoft as a product manager, kind of going client side, and, but then also taking that leap backwards, not backwards, but differently over to the agency side. Yep. And so I love that, because you really have gotten experience in so many different places, which of course qualifies you to be where you are today, right? To understand all those nuances of the agencies that you work with to help you reach the customer and, connect with them, and, just the marketing that you're doing and the customer side of your role. This is a lot going on there, Mika.
It's been great to be able to see all these different perspectives, to be able to take that into play in terms of empathy for our customers, empathy for the agencies and the consultants we work with, as well as just understanding the dynamics of each of the functions that need to deliver, to be able to, again, deliver together to deliver delight for our own customers. So it's been great. It's been great.
Yeah, I love it. Well, you've probably picked up some advice along the way. So what advice do you wish you had gotten earlier in your career, or what advice would you give to someone starting in their marketing career now?
I have a mix of both. And one of the things that I wish I would have had more of when I first started my career is a belief in myself, right? Is this confidence that, believe in yourself, believe that you can do whatever you set yourself, up to do. And if you don't, if you don't actually succeed at certain things, it doesn't mean that you categorically are a failure. It means that certain things that you may do may not have worked. And so getting comfortable, so believing in yourself, but being comfortable with failure and hiccups in the road, and not equating that to your own personal kind of brand or who you are. It's a point in time versus the way that you need to define yourself, but having an overall belief in yourself, surrounding yourselves with cheerleaders and people who are really honest about, both, again, your great superpowers and then elements that you could work on is really key as well. And I would say, one thing that I brought to the table and I learned from my parents is working harder than anyone else around you, and showing grit and perseverance and the ability and the desire to figure it out. And then doing so, and the thing I picked up along the way was doing so alongside other people. So figuring out how the people around you, because nothing great can get done without a village of individuals with you, figuring out like how are the people around you actually motivated, and what are they trying to achieve, and how do you find a common ground to be able to drive success and drive impact together, because it's actually far more fun than doing it by yourself, and it's actually better because you get a different perspective. And then lastly, I would say, the thing that's benefited me a ton, especially stepping into new roles and new industries throughout my career, is just diving in and being a great student of the business and knowing the business and understanding the key metrics that make it run, and understanding what key metrics competitors or new entrants in the market are actually succeeding in achieving, and how they're actually redefining the game if that's in fact taking place. So, for example, Apple really taking a ton of share by having an absolutely delightful retail experience, so people could look, feel, see, and touch their technology was a great part of Apple's success. So understanding different dynamics that are happening around you, and being able to absorb that and figure out what does that what implications does that bring to the business that you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. And marketing is for sure a team sport. So I like some of that. So we at Setup believe that everyone has a superpower. You briefly mentioned the concept already. What's yours, Mika? What's your superpower?
I've thought about this a lot. I think my superpower is that I don't get jet lag and I can operate on very little sleep. Which comes in handy because I'm probably in 2 to 3 cities a week, and often in 2 to 3 countries a month. And so it helps a ton to be on a plane all the time, or be juggling. My husband and I have 5 kids. We have 3 dogs. I have a job that I absolutely love, and so to get all these things done, sometimes sleep gets shortchanged, and so the ability to operate at least for a little bit of time on very little sleep helps a ton.
Wow. I have to say, I don't know that I've gotten a physical superpower before. And this is I love it. I wish I had yours.
Comes in
That's
handy.
great.
It comes
Yeah,
in
it
handy.
does come in handy, especially with the life that you just described, right? You have a lot of things going, so, and a lot of travel. So in terms of being a leader, where do you find inspiration for your team?
I listen a lot. And so what I like to do is I like to actually listen to the news and actually get news, pick up news feeds from different parts of the world, which helps a ton. I like to read about what's happening in terms of futuristic trends. I love to meet with startups to hear the innovations and the inventions that they're working on. And then listen to our customers, listen to the people within our organization around the world and at all different levels, just to hear what they're facing. And take all those things and then spend some time, honestly, in the mountains, or while I'm training on my bike, and really synthesizing everything, where I have I think of a few topics as I head out, again, in climbing a mountain, training on my bike, and saying, okay, I'm going to actually make sense of this in this next 2-3 hour block. And so I try to make sense of that so that I can clear my head and set focus, so that I can think about what is our vision and where are we trying to head, and create common goals across multiple functions throughout the company, so that we set some aggressively realistic goals that are out there, and then break it down into bite-sized chunks, and have people understand the stages or the base camps that we need to get to our ascent, and then be an incredible cheerleader, hydrator, resource provider, brush clear and wall clear for people as we go up this ascent. And so it's really outside in feedback, getting a ton of feedback internally, setting focus, setting a common vision, setting some common objectives, and then just breaking it down and helping clear the way as we get there.
I think your early career as an analyst is serving you well, right? In terms of how you gather all this info and sort of synthesize it. Now, the special piece about how you then kind of go take that and think about the vision, you're going above and beyond, but of an analyst, right? But I just like how you've got all these inputs, right? You're reading a lot, you're curating news from around the world, not just, from one single source, those types of things that kind of bring in different perspectives. And with the business that you're in, it's important to be connected and on the pulse. So I think that's really cool. What values do you demonstrate as a leader, or what values do you look for when you're hiring your team?
When I started my career, what I started to do is I carry a notebook around. I love physically writing notes. And what I started to do was write in the back of my book, these are values that I appreciate and that I admire, And these are other values that I actually don't appreciate or don't admire. And I took notes I took notes, running notes. And then when I became a leader for the first time and got to have the privilege of leading a team, I started coalescing those elements and figuring out, what do I stand for? And so the values that I both live by and, and instill in my family and also expect of the people that I work with is or are, integrity. So doing the right thing always, which means that not every dollar is green, and you may walk away from a deal in the short term to be able to do the right thing in the long term. One of them is excellence. So leaving things better than you found them, even if you think that no one's going to notice, and always thinking of ways that you can raise the bar. One of them is focus. You can't be all things to all people. And if you try, you end up being pretty marginal to everybody. So figuring out how to do fewer things well. Stewardship, and I believe in this a lot, and I benefited from this a lot, is, helping other people around you be successful. And that could be people that you work for, people you work with, or people that work on your behalf as a leader. And so stewardship is a really big one, because again, as we talked about, I mean, being a part of a village and the 360 village is, I think, is a great. It makes work, far more enjoyable, and it actually drives greater success and momentum. Say what you mean and mean what you say, so that people can count on you, and that you can build trust. And the last one I'd say is perseverance. Just keep grinding it out, work harder than anybody around you. If you fall down, if you skin your knee, get back up, dust yourself off, keep trying. Because I think that there's intelligence, and that, you need a set of skills, you need a set of intelligence, but I find that the people that really thrive are the people that have a great deal of perseverance, and the ability to really push beyond and keep trying and working harder.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes the hardest thing to do.
It can be. Yeah, it really can. I love that. And I love that you have those values really crystallized, for yourself, because you've taken time to think through them and jot things down that matter. And it's a really thoughtful approach. I love it. Okay, so setup helps marketers thrive by bringing them together with the best people and resources. This often means for us that we're connecting brands with marketing agencies that either fill a gap in capacity or capability, for a brand that has obviously agencies in their roster. So we just have a unique perspective on that relationship because we live in the space in between. So in terms of agencies, how do you work with marketing agencies today in your role at Freshworks?
I think my view on agencies has definitely evolved throughout my career. When I first started my career, and agency relationships have likely evolved over the since I started my career as well. But I see agencies as a key business partner, and operating as one team. Previously, early in my career, it was, here's the agency and here's the client, and it was actually quite divided and separate. And I think the best work is when is achieved when it is actually seamlessly one team, and it's clear on what accountabilities are throughout the team and what superpowers and responsibilities everybody has, but you operate as one cohesive team versus a agency world and a client world. I love the outside in thinking that an agency can deliver and drive, just because agencies see things that, us as clients definitely don't see. I do think it's very important that there is an alignment of values and approach. And so that alignment of values, I think, is very critical in establishing a really good agency partnership. And that's something that is, now part of the first conversations that I'll have is, what's your ethos? What's your, what are your values, and what makes you tick as a company and as human beings? Because that essentially helps align this notion of partnership and acting as one team. And it has to be, part of it is having to be grounded in driving impact and driving true business impact that actually is data driven and measurable. And so it becomes this interesting juxtaposition of, using the, left side of your brain and the right side of your brain, rational and then emotional, so that you can really deliver impact, because that's how, you know, people evaluate and make their decisions in terms of whether something resonates with them, and whether you know, whether you're breaking through, whether you're going to break through or not. And then, you know, making sure that we're invested in, you know, getting to know the agency, and making sure the agency is invested in getting to know us. And I think that those are the areas that I really think about and really put a lot of intention around when thinking about agencies that we work with now.
Definitely. And I think the answer is so different than what if we had asked a leader this question maybe 50 years ago, right? Like, I don't think we would have heard a brand talking about the importance of values alignment and, you know, and looking at them. We talk about a lot having the agency be an extension of your team, which is kind of the concept that you're talking about. They're really in it together, kind of partnering with the brand. And I do think that relationship between agency and brand has evolved, and there is, in a good way, right? That there's real mutual respect there, that everybody understands that, you know, you as the client are bringing in deep industry knowledge, you know, knowledge of the business, these sort, and also everything else that you know in your career. But if you're bringing an agency in to do specialist thinking, then, you know, you're going to partner with them, respect how they, you know, how they're coming in with their information, and you guys will be better together. It's just, it's a fun way that I think it's a fun way things have evolved in my career, and, you know, obviously from much before you and I were working.
Agreed.
Yeah. Are there any marketing functions that you would typically outsource to an agency versus those that you feel you would always want your in-house team to manage? Or does that kind of shift, you know, as time shifts and as variables change?
You know, I think things can shift. I think things can shift based on the space that you might be in, and if you're looking for a specific. So, for example, we're looking for a head of product marketing here at the company, and so in absence of that, we can't just stand still. And so we've been looking at, we've engaged an agency to actually essentially play a de facto leadership position in a certain part of our business for product marketing. And so that's where I wouldn't normally cede our, you know, our core messaging for one of our key products to an outside group. And I would think that that's our core responsibility. And so we're co-developing the messaging and positioning, but realizing that we needed capacity and superpowers and capabilities to be able to continue to propel us forward, despite the fact that we don't have the, you know, the leadership in-house. But I think in general, strategy, vision, you know, the customer experience, design, I think should stay in-house. I do think that agencies can help make it better. Agencies, again, see things in ways that you don't see them as a client, and can bring, you know, a different perspective, and bring and push you to do things beyond what you may have thought it was possible. I think the core strategy still needs to come from the company. You know, if it is a strategy that comes from an agency, I think it becomes somewhat challenging to be able to bring it to life inside the company and with customers, because it actually isn't necessarily your own. And it doesn't mean that you can't co-create one with an agency or co-create creative with an agency, but I think the client or the company itself has to feel like they owned and were a part of developing their strategy, their customer experience design, and their vision, in order to bring it to life, because they're, you know, the agency, you know, isn't there. I mean, some of them are there day to day, but, you know, they're not the operators, and they're not bringing it to life across all the functions within the organization. And so I think for it to see its best opportunity to succeed and maximize impact, those core areas need to be owned by the client.
Makes sense. So a question that often comes up in our world is proving marketing's value to the C-suite. So how do you show the value of marketing to both the leadership team, but as well as just to the rest of the company? You know, how are you getting buy-in for the marketing efforts that you're leading?
You know, I think that it's not operating, you know, it's avoiding to operate in a silo. And it's sharing as many goals as possible with the key functions throughout the organization. And that can happen with finance, and that can happen with products. So for example, in our organization, what we've done is we've tied together the product-led growth success into the, you know, across marketing and product by having the core leaders that work on this share a goal, which is conversion of people who sign up for a trial to being a paid customer. And so product and marketing take on the same goal, which is an outcome, so that it's not, well, marketing says we brought you the right people to sign up for the trial. If only the experience wasn't so crappy, we would get the results we would want. No one gets to say that because they have a shared goal. We have mutual success tied with driving, earnings releases between our customer experience group and our investor relations group. And so really tying core outcomes together across functions, I think helps a ton to break down silos and not have it be marketing throwing things over the wall, or demands from certain areas being thrown back over the wall, or orders being sent over the wall to marketing. It's sharing in those core outcomes, which helps, I think, drive or solidify closer partnerships. I think also involving the company in the development of the outcome, or in the campaign, or in the messaging, or in the play, like a sales play, helps a ton to, because if you get feedback and people feel like they're a part of the co-creation, you get the buy-in and people see themselves in the work. And it doesn't mean you can't be principled or set a high bar for things. And it doesn't have to turn into beige or vanilla because everyone has feedback. You still hold, marketing can still own or hold the pen. But I think if you've built trust and you're listening, you end up, bringing people along and having people buy into what's being developed, and they're more likely to actually manifest the intention and take it to market with you in a way that actually drives a lot more momentum than if we were just marketing in a vacuum, creating something, throwing it at the wall and saying, okay, you need to push this out, because there is no internal ownership or buy-in for the outcome. And so it's really tying outcomes together, involving multiple functions who see things, frankly, that marketing doesn't, by engaging with customers, and and involving the village in creating where we're headed with our marketing solutions.
Definitely. Is there a campaign or a program in either your current role or a past role that taught you the most, whether that's because it was so wildly successful or because it was not? What comes to mind?
I think the best campaign effort that I've ever worked on was at my last role, and that was at F5, where we were breaking into the security space, and there wasn't an internal, when I landed on the within the company, there wasn't an internal drive to drive brand, to drive advertising necessarily, but we actually weren't known to be a big security player, despite the revenues that we generated from security. And so, it was a realization, and the big thing to have learned was, involving the village in creating the need to actually drive more branded activities. And so we saw the need through sellers, through our customer success individuals, and they started speaking up and pushing that we have, and a more awareness and more branded assets, and a more brand campaign that existed. And so listening to that, despite the lack of budget or desire to put budget into it, we created a campaign, and it was very grassroots. So we had to involve, and we did involve, the solution engineers, and we involved product, and we involved sales, and we involved marketers and people in the field. And it was great because people were very vocal about what hadn't worked in the past, but because they were part of creating the future, they felt really invested. And so we created something that was, we all felt emotionally tied to and connected to, and we made it very personal, and we decided to be bold and not, and take it personally, and not take it down a personal route in terms of making it personal to our customers. And people felt like they saw themselves in it, but they also felt like they could really emotionally, relate to what we were saying. And so it was involvement of this village. It was not taking no for an answer, and just saying, look, even though we don't have the dollars to invest, let's cobble something together to show if we do something organically. And we started sharing it organically through our, through our own owned properties and socially, and we started to get momentum, and that momentum actually bred results, which then drove a nod to invest, which is really incredible, right? And so it's following your gut, involving other people, persevering, even though that no was the, no, or we're not going to invest was the initial stance. But, taking that village and making a case for why we needed to do it. And so the outcome and the campaign itself was truly something I think we're all really proud of having released in the market. But also just how we did it and having so many people so emotionally invested, including the agency who was, wrote blogs about the campaign itself and felt emotionally tied to the campaign too. So we were really true partners with the agency, and we asked them to push us. And when they thought we were going in a wrong direction, rather than having, in some agency relationships, agencies feel like they just have to say yes to everything. We asked them, look, if you feel like we're going into a bad place or a dark place, please tell us. And they did, and they made us better, and they helped us raise the bar. And so I think that was the best experience I've had in driving a campaign. It's the best outcome. And it's a lesson in, again, in creating true partnerships and involving others and getting buy-in but understanding where you need to make a choice to be bold, and making those choices to really break through.
I like how you tied in some of your values, your approach to how you work with agencies. Like, that story really encompassed a lot of what you've shared with us so far. So I think that was the perfect example campaign. So to round out the interview, I just have a few what I'll call fun questions, very more about you personally, less about your career. Is there a quote or a book or a movie or music that inspires you?
I thought about this question, and the thing that kept coming to mind is, we have three older kids that no longer live in our house, and you try to teach them a lot as they grow up in the house, and I find I get more inspiration from them than they probably get from me now. And one of my sons has a sophomore in college, and he has a sign up in his room, or a flag up in his room, that says, "No one cares, work harder." And when he sees points of adversity, I think he's one of my, true inspirations. When he sees adversity, when he has a hard day, when he has a hard time, either in an exam or in a game, because he's an athlete, he'll pick himself up and he'll be self-reflective in terms of what he can do. But he won't stay down in the dumps for very long. And he'll just say, look, I just got to get up and I need to work harder. And this is what I need to work on. And so he looks adversity in the eye, takes ownership and accountability, and just takes it by the horns, and then decides that he's going to work harder. And I find that absolutely inspiring. I don't think I was that way inclined when I was 20 years old. But it is a way, it's a great way to be, which means that you need to recognize that you can recognize that things didn't work out the way you want, but you dust yourself off and you just keep going, which I really appreciate.
Definitely. So you've mentioned doing some hikes and some bike exercise, but other than family, where do you find joy outside of work?
For sure, in the mountains. So I think that my most peaceful moments, thoughtful moments, enjoyable moments have taken place in the mountains, whether I'm hiking up the mountain, skiing down a mountain, skiing across a mountain, snowshoeing, biking up a mountain. I think the mountains in general are places where I absolutely find the most joy.
Love that. What brand that you've never worked on do you most admire, and why?
I thought of this a lot just because I have favorite brands based on my experience with the brand itself. But I think one of the brands I admire a lot, and I've watched a lot, is Warby Parker. And the reason is because they broke through, right? You think of and Nest thermostats is another example. It's breaking through in a category where you think, how can you possibly break through for eyeglasses? But they really thoughtful in terms of, their physical experiences in the stores themselves, the digital experience, and the ability to try on glasses before it even was a thing, to try on glasses. So you didn't have to go into a physical store, but if you wanted to, you could. And so thinking about all the touch points with a customer and thinking about how to make them absolutely delightful at a price point that's, quite affordable, because some eyeglasses are actually quite expensive. And so driving accessibility not just through price, but also through the experience itself online, I think was incredible. And the thought they put into the words they use, the experiences they deliver shows such a great intention for the customer that I, absolutely admire them. They take that branding and that messaging and that tone even into their 10K, into their financial results. Like they design their financial, well, they used to, I haven't looked at it recently, but they used to put a lot of intention in even the design of their financial results and in the tone of their financial results. And so to put that much intention in every single touch point, I think is truly remarkable.
Definitely. I was an early adopter.
I couldn't find any that really looks
Yeah.
that great, but
Yeah.
I have tried on a lot of glasses virtually from them.
Same. Yeah. And it's fun. I like them too because, it sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, where as in works as in I find something that I love. But
Yes.
to your point, the process is so simple, regardless of whether it's in person or I have them send me, the 6 pairs I picked or
Which I
whatever.
love. I
Yeah.
love being able to do that because then you can do it in the, comfort of your own home and different
Yes.
lighting. Yeah, I think
Yes. Definitely not in the store where you look, whatever. But yes,
yes.
and the charitable element of Warby Parker as well, right?
Yep.
So that's great.
Very good.
Well, Mika Yamamoto, I am so thrilled to have had this conversation with you today. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights and your journey with our audience. We appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. It's so great to be here. Thank you so much.